I work on cross-examinations with Brian before trial. And we sat down and went over witnesses. So there was a plan for particular points, but sometimes new things come up. You never know what to expect. Some of these witnesses were totally unexpected in how they testified.
Who was the most unexpected you remember?
I had no clue what Kenneth Copeland would do. Not a clue. I had heard the jail calls. I had listened to the interview. He was a real wild card.
Yeah. I remember thinking to myself that I didn't understand how there was any way the jury could do anything but just disregard everything he said. What did you think?
That was my opinion. Throw it all out. Otherwise, you got to pick through things and, well, maybe this is right, maybe that's not right. Yeah, you throw it all out. And the other thing that about him and Quindarius Zachary, everything they knew was based on being told to them by Demekian Garlington, who wasn't even there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was once removed from the start. But yes, he was a wild card. But there were witnesses. I think my favorite witness in terms of how it helped our case was Trontavious Stevens.
Yes.
He came early in the case. They had already heard a week of a gang detective. They had heard evidence about Durante Beebe. He wasn't in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. And drug charge involving Nichols. And then they brought in Trontavious Stevens. And my sense was the jurors felt so bad for him. They liked him.
Yeah.
Despite the fact you wouldn't like the things he did in 2013 or 15. But the guy had tried to get his life together. And lo and behold, he's charged in this RICO indictment. And he'd just gotten his commercial driver's license, but couldn't look for work because he had to sit in the courtroom.
Yes.
And it was so unfair to use his prior acts that he'd done time for to drag him into this case in order to give testimony. And the jurors liked him. I think they felt really bad. He'd been in juvie since he was, 11?
Yeah.
In and out. And it really struck me when he said, if it wasn't for Jeffery Williams, I would never have gone outside 285.
Yeah.
So I thought he had an amazing impact in telling the narrative of the case without intending to so much. It's just his life was a great illustration.
And I remember Brian Steele's cross-examination really seemed to focus on that. Was that the focus of your conversation with Brian when you were talking about what should the cross-examination look like here?
I probably can't go into that, but
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, there was a tremendous amount of work that went into this case. It was night and day since July 22. Crazy out.
Yeah, I can imagine just the prep, all the stuff that you had to prepare for. First of all, and then how did Judge Glanville's sporadic trial schedule affect you, and then also the jury?
I think it was grossly unfair to the jury. It dragged the whole case out. And for some reason, it got blamed on the defense. You guys weren't here on time. It was just so bad for the jury. I can't imagine. Now, the jurors cleared it with their employers. And I know there were people who thought they weren't getting paid anything, but most of them got their regular salary, or they weren't going to be there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's your life is on hold. I know some of them had life events. I had 2 major life events during this trial and during the preparation. And I'm surprised we did not lose more jurors than we did.
Yeah, I'd always thought that would end the trial. The jurors would just drop out, but it sounds like
I kind of did too.
they just weathered on. Is that what you had to do when you had the life events? I mean, you had maybe a little bit more leeway, or?
I had, well, one of them occurred. I lost my husband.
Oh no.
While I was preparing for the case.
Wow.
And we were not in trial.
Yeah. Oh no.
But the other was in the spring of this year. I had compression fracture in my back. So I was out about a month or so. I was out when Brian got held in contempt.
Oh. How did you find out about that?
Watching online.
Yeah. Were you watching in real time when that happened?
Yes.
And
you wouldn't have wanted to hear what I said.
Of course, the jury was not in the courtroom for that. But how did you think that the entire break and just the chaos was going to affect the jury?
A lot of speculation probably on their part.
Yeah.
I have to kind of think somebody looked on social media. I have no evidence anyone did, but it's quite possible. And I think they were very relieved when the jurors, when the judge was replaced. We had a real schedule and things seemed like they were moving. But I know people had family they couldn't see, travel plans, vacation, graduations, weddings to go to. They put their life on hold for months and months and months. It's amazing to me that they did that. They were amazing.
And did you think that just the length of the case and what the jurors were going to go through was going to make it harder for the state?
I didn't think that initially, but as it went on, yeah. The state went on and on and on. Some witnesses were on the stand almost a month. And I heard it in the interviews. One juror said, "Why did we spend almost a month on a case where a car crashed into the side of a laundromat? What was that about?"
Yeah.
So I think it really, really worked against the state. First, that they didn't have a narrative. And second, that it's too much evidence, too many people, too many names to keep straight. And the pace was horrible.
Yes.
Horrible.
Yes. And everyone knows that this is the longest criminal trial in Georgia state court history. Given your experience with trials, had you ever seen anything like it, just in the sheer size of the case and what they were trying to do?
No, I had not. I mean, I've worked on some cases with sizable discovery, but nothing like this. Nothing. And it was made so huge, not so much documents, but video interviews and social media posts and chats and phone dumps and jail calls. The jail calls, I estimate over 50,000 jail calls in this case. I didn't listen to those, believe me. Select one.